Welcome to OurSport. I'm Larry. I'm your host. John, as always, is doing the recording and editing. Rivalry week's over. The Iron Bowl is one of the best games of the year. We're going to get to that. But we're going to start with Ohio State going to the big house and humiliating Michigan. This has become normal now. This is no different than last year, or apparently a lot of the years before. These programs have their clear separation, and when this happens, the story is Michigan a lot. People are talking about Jim Harbaugh and what the problem with the program is. How about this? Really, the story should be Ohio State. They should get some credit. Really, nobody talks about the job that they're doing over there, and I mean, they do, but not in terms of this game. It's always, what's wrong with Michigan? What's right with Ohio State? This team's phenomenal. So, how about this? They got a brand new coach, first year in. He was an interim coach last year, Ryan Day, won all those games, and came here, and he's got a brand new quarterback. Same system. Still, you have to incorporate that player in your system. You have to learn what it's like to be a head coach. Man, no problem. No problem. Winning every game by double digits. I'm trying to think about the last college football team historically that didn't have close games. Because if you're not within double digits, it's not a close game. Even 2004 USC had to have a goal line stand against Aaron Rodgers. 2001 Miami were biting their nails against Boston College till Ed Reed snatched an interception from his own teammate, returned it to the house because Ed Reed. But nobody's close to this team. Now, if you're watching that game, what you saw is discipline. This is a disciplined team. They didn't have a lot of significant penalties. They had some like everybody else, but didn't have a stupid one like the Michigan fourth and four on the punt, where Michigan was offsides on a 4th and 4 while Ohio State was punting, about to give them the ball back. They didn't give up a lot of pressure to a pretty good Michigan pass rush, and not a lot of mistakes like the fumble snap. You know, Michigan's mistakes define them, and Ohio State's discipline and coaching and ability to focus define them in this game. Tremendous job. They're going to be the number one team in our top 10. I don't expect Wisconsin to have a chance against this team. Too many good players. And we all know the cast of characters for Ohio State. J.K. Dobbins, Heisman finalist now. Justin Fields, 1 interception on the year. 37 touchdowns as a quarterback. And a running threat with 1 interception. Chase Young, who was slowed down most of the game. Didn't matter. Didn't matter even with him not being able to play his best game. Buckeyes still pull it out. But with all those players that you talk about, what nobody talked about, holy cow, they're loaded everywhere. Akuda, their corner. But how about the Buckeye offensive line? Because I'm not taking anything away from J.K. Dobbins. I'm not one bit. But man, he had help. They were coming off the ball, and he was getting that. He wasn't getting touched till sometimes 3, 4, 5 yards, and then of course he'd make his own magic. Just tremendous win. A lot of focus. Very, very impressive from this dominant program. Now let's talk about the other side. Michigan has talent. The idea that they don't have talent that's close to Ohio State is just flat wrong. Because Michigan has more 4 and 5 stars on their team than the Clemson Tigers on that roster. And we were bagging this team from week 0. It's not hate, it's what it is. We call it like we see it. And the beginning of the year, we said this before the season even started. It's an overrated team. It's an overrated team. They don't have what it takes mentally. They have some pieces. Now, the talent is deficient in some spots. Hassan Haskins is a good back, and he can make hay against Maryland and Rutgers, but he's not J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins can make hay against everybody. There's a difference there. Shea Patterson had the best half of his life in the first half for Michigan, and they were still trying to keep up because Justin Fields, that's kind of his game every week. Where this program goes from here, I haven't heard any rumors like this. I just haven't. I'm just guessing. I expect Jim Harbaugh to step down after this season. Not to be fired. I expect them to meet together and they say, look, it's not working. There's NFL teams that are after you. Maybe you should try doing that. That's honestly what I expect from this program. If this program doesn't move on from Jim Harbaugh, they are in no man's land. They're in limbo. They're never ready for this game. They have not been ready for this game for a couple of years. The last 2 years, you could lose to Ohio State. You sure as hell can't lose like that to Ohio State. All right, the Iron Bowl. Holy cow, what a game. It's hard to say what the game of the year was. We were at LSU Bama. That was pretty good. This was better because so many big plays in every facet of the game. Bama with 2 defensive touchdowns that were the difference in this game. Auburn with 2 defensive touchdowns that were the difference in this game. Along with some special teams disasters from Alabama. If you look at Saban's teams, it's just so strange. Since he's got there, no team in the country has missed more field goals. You think about how many times he's lost, the few games that he's lost, and special teams have been a factor a lot. The kick 6, obviously. The 9-6 game against LSU, missed a couple of field goals to send that game to overtime, a couple of easy field goals. And I don't know, I don't understand it. I don't get it. Saban is the most disciplined coach in America, maybe. He's so focused on fundamentals, and this is, special teams is not 1/3 of the game. They say it's 1/3 of the game. It's not, because it's not 1/3 of the snaps. It's 1/6 of the snaps. But if you make a mistake on special teams, that play becomes more significant than a mistake on offense or defense. Much more significant, it seems like. And his special teams have been trash. I just don't understand it. So, also, this is the last year you're going to see Alabama in this incarnation on offense, I'm guessing. He's had to play this way. Nick Saban, guarantee you, fucking hates games like this. Fucking hates games like this. 48-45, 46-41 against LSU. Can't stand it. He didn't like losing a 9-6 to LSU in 2011, but then he got him back in the championship, beat him 21-0. That's his kind of football. That's what he wants to play. So why is he doing this? Why is he playing like this on offense? Well, Saban's also, no doubt about it, a smart coach. Look at his personnel. He's got a college version of Drew Brees, and he's got multiple first-round receivers. You have to do it. You got to play like this. You have to play to your talent. You got to throw the ball up and down the field. Their quarterbacks in this game, their backup quarterback should have been Jalen Hurts. He's gone. We talked about that. People don't have any depth anywhere. This is essentially the third-string quarterback. And not an issue. Coming in, now he threw the 2 picks, of course, still put up a ton of yards because you can have those receivers, Waddle, Judy, Ruggs, Smith, you just have them on a crossing route. You can have a 5-yard play. You can throw that ball to them, and they are gone. They're gone to the house. And you got to throw the ball. This has got to become the kind of offense you have. Well, also, it hurts your defense, though. You turn into a Big 12 team. And defensive coaches hate having bad defense. They always want to protect their defense. A coach like Lincoln Riley is like, we'll just outscore you. It's their wheelhouse. He's comfortable with it. Saban hates this, and I expect them to change next year. I expect them to go back to more of what they were, line up. The Trent Richardson style, the Chance Warmack, DJ Fluke are the offensive line style. Let's just get up here and just maul teams. Let's control the game. Let's win time of possession. Let's get a fullback. Let's get in the I formation. And I know everybody's gone more to what they call the modern era of football, the spreading everybody out and getting in the gun. I wouldn't surprise me one bit if Bama now gets to reinvent themselves, and that's exactly what Saban wants to do. As for Auburn, what a win. What a win for the Tigers. Bo Nix, a freshman, his dad was a legacy. You know, he could lose every game the rest of his Auburn career, but he's got a win against Alabama that knocked him out of the playoffs. He can. If he got hit by a car, he'd die happy tonight. So good for him. Good for the Tigers. An impossible schedule of games. They were not going to make the playoffs. And players like Derek Brown, we loved him. It's so unusual to see a 330-pounder with athleticism and hustle. Well, the opposing quarterbacks have talked about that. I think it was Jake Fromm. I mean, you play these guys, they're huge. They don't quit. They play hard the whole game. And Derek Brown was making plays late in this game. And that's a testament to their will, to their desire. They wanted this game. By God, they wanted it. They had some will and some drive. And congratulations to Auburn. I feel sorry for whatever Big Ten sacrificial lamb they play in a bowl game. All right, I'm going to bring in John. If you look right now, you're going to see our OurSport Top 10.
Where we're putting it? There? Here?
Just the whole thing.
Hold the whole screen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So everybody take a look at it for a second. This is hard. Deciding the top three. You can put them really in any order. We went with Ohio State number one. They're the most complete team in the country. Now, we want to talk about, is there any way anybody, what's the scenario for every one of these teams to get in the playoff or get knocked out of the playoff? Start with Ohio State number one. They're going to play Wisconsin in a Big Ten championship game. I think even if they lose to Wisconsin, they're still going to be, they're more in the playoff committee too. The worst they could drop is number four. Too many good wins, too much domination. The margin of victory is double digits. Even if they lose, they're going to drop no worse than 4.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Agree?
I think so. But I do think they are going to win. I think they have already beaten Wisconsin. Yeah. I think they have a really, really good chance of winning and getting in at number one. So.
Okay. Number 2, Clemson play a feisty Virginia team in the ACC championship game. If college football were normal, I would think Virginia would have a chance. But I've watched this Clemson team all year. It's hard for me not to put them number one. John and I had a discussion, and your knock on Clemson was what?
They haven't played anybody right now. No good teams this year, but I don't really think it matters. This looks like last year's team.
Yeah.
They kind of messed around in their first 2 games. They had one game that was close. They got scared, and then they just put the pedal to the metal. And at the last 6 games, all their wins have been by 35 or more points.
5 touchdown margins of victory.
That is ridiculous. And last year, no one could even slow them down. Alabama, with Tua Tagovailoa and an actual good defense, just got mauled by this team.
Yeah.
So it's...
Remember Trevor Lawrence not being up to his old self? Remember when that was a thing?
Yeah.
For a minute?
Yeah.
Now, well, here's what could happen. If they lose to Virginia, which that'd be the unlikeliest upset, could they be knocked out of the playoffs? Because Dabo Swinney went on a rant, and God bless him, he's right. He's 100% right. They're trying all they can to put Georgia's ass in there, who lost to a terrible South Carolina team, and their third-string quarterback. That is a horrible loss. And they're trying everything they can to keep Georgia in there, and they're trying reasons to keep Clemson out. He doesn't sound like he has persecution complex to me. He sounds like he's right.
Yeah, they're on, what's their win streak up to now? 30 games? 29 games?
27 games.
27 games.
And I know you can't come by last year, but come on, man. They're just
That's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've 27 games in a row, and right now they're number 2 in the country.
And you're right about their schedule, okay? You're about the schedule. They played some toe tags. The conference is not great. But man, you are hammering these teams, and even if you lost to Virginia, you're still a 12-1 team. You can't put them in the top 4, but they might. Okay, LSU we have number 3. I think the committee had them number 2. Can LSU lose this game, the SEC championship game? I think we agree this is the conference championship game with the best chance for an upset.
Yeah. Out of these okay. Top 3 for sure.
I've been bagging Georgia all year. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think the worst thing that could happen for these teams on the cusp, like Utah and Oklahoma, the teams that are trying to slide in at number 4, is Georgia upsets LSU.
Right.
Because in that scenario,
they're in.
Both of those teams are probably getting in at that point.
Right.
Because a 1-loss Utah team and a 1-loss Oklahoma team.
Let's talk about LSU first, though. Okay. So the thing about LSU is, you're right, and let's talk about them because we have Georgia number 5. They're going to go together in this discussion. He's right about this. The SEC commissioner is rooting hard for LSU to lose this game because that's the way to get 2 in the playoffs.
Yep.
Okay. So LSU, if they lose this game, they're still in no matter what, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because
too many good wins.
Too many good wins.
Too many good
and
wins.
who is their loss to? Their loss is to an 11-1 division champ. Okay.
Yeah.
Georgia's got a shot because Georgia can play some nasty defense. They really tackle well. And LSU, kind of choppy on defense a little bit. I still think even if they lose this game, they're in. I think they have to be. There's just too many good wins. And Joe Burrow, oh my God.
Oh, he's playing out of his mind this year. This year,
what's in the water down there?
He's on pace to break the yardage record, the touchdown record, and the completion percentage record in a singular year, all at the same time.
Like most yards in a year for passing?
Yeah.
No,
he's already broken it for the SEC. He's already broken.
Oh yeah, no. Some of those area quarterbacks.
Yeah, but he's on pace to break the highest percentage.
Yes.
And then I think he's on pace to break touchdowns for a year.
No.
He's already broken the SEC record.
Yeah, but the
Touchdowns
SEC,
by a
right, not
quarterback.
national. Yeah.
But he's playing ridiculously well,
Playing out of
and
his mind.
honestly, he could overcome his own defense at this point.
He has.
He has all year.
He has in a couple games.
And I think out of their 11 wins, they're like 5 are against top 10 teams. Now one of those was Texas.
12 wins. They just beat A&M
Yeah.
outside. Okay.
Texas was a top 10 team at the time. They don't look like a top 10 team now, but still, they have consistently beaten good teams. And out of all the teams in this top 10, or all the teams that have spots in the playoffs that they could potentially get in, they have the best resume in terms of wins.
Yeah.
They've beaten the most good teams.
And, how about this? Battle tested. Teams battle tested which is something because they had a close game against Auburn. Had a close game, Florida, Bama, Texas. These were all close. They pulled out every one of them. Close margin of victory. Burrow, they don't win any of those games without Burrow. He had to be damn near flawless, and he was.
Yeah.
Okay. Our number 4 team, Utah. I'm higher on them than most other people. I like this team. Now, what's Utah's path to the playoff? Utah has to beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game, no doubt. Mm-hmm. Okay? And they need LSU to beat Georgia.
At minimum. Because, at this point, if Oklahoma beats Baylor,
Yeah.
then it's 1-loss Utah, probably, versus 1-loss Oklahoma. And that's up to the committee to decide.
And Oklahoma's their 6th team, right?
Oklahoma's their 16.
Our 16.
Our 16.
Okay. But we're close to the playoff rankings, right?
So who do they put in at that point? It's up to the committee. Oklahoma or Utah. In my opinion, I think they put in Oklahoma. I think that's what they do.
Utah might be the better team.
Utah might be the better team.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They have bias towards Oklahoma. They were in the playoffs last year.
Pretty quarterback.
They do have like an order of priority in terms of like conference. The SEC gets in a lot of times over other conferences. The Big Ten gets in pretty much over a lot of other conferences.
Don't discount this,
So-
too. Brand name. This is why Ohio State got in over TCU that year, because of brand. Because the Utah brand is not as big of a deal as the Oklahoma brand. Oklahoma's an all-time power. Utah's having a great year. And Utah might be the better team. But if they both win a conference championship and are up 12-1, Georgia loses, that's what could happen. Now, for Utah, they could lose this game to Oregon. I might have been wrong. Like I said, the biggest chance for an upset is Georgia over LSU. No.
It might be Oregon over Utah.
And it could be Baylor over Oklahoma.
Baylor
had them
is
beat.
a good one. Now, does Baylor have an outside chance to get in? Because they are a 9-1 team,
Right.
with 1 loss in a very close game to
11. They're
Oklahoma.
11-1 team.
11-1.
Yeah.
I keep thinking it's a few weeks ago.
He's gonna major in math. Okay.
I'm the editor.
Yeah.
So, if Baylor wins this game against Oklahoma, they now have a win over a really good Oklahoma team.
Yeah.
Their only loss was to that Oklahoma team, and they barely lost that game. And do they have a chance to get in?
They'll need Utah to lose.
They need Utah to lose, they need to beat Oklahoma, and then they need LSU to
beat
predictably beat Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who does that leave? That's about everybody can make the playoff.
Alabama is gone.
Alabama's
They're not in
Alabama's
anymore.
they can't How does Alabama get in?
They can't.
2 losses?
The only way that you see,
Okay, hold
LSU
on. Oh yeah,
has-
because the Oklahoma Baylor winner is going to have 1 loss.
I'll tell you this. No
The
matter what,
Oklahoma Baylor winner is going to be in over Alabama because they're conference champ but only 1 loss
Yeah.
no matter what. They're out for sure.
even
Okay.
this, right?
Yeah.
Georgia, if they lose, has a better chance of getting in than Alabama. Because at that point, they're both 2-loss teams who lost to LSU.
Okay.
But Georgia went to an SEC title game. And Bama didn't.
How do you put Georgia in when they lost that game if they're an 11-2 team over a 1-win conference champ from the Big 12?
You can't. That's what I'm saying.
So Georgia has no chance. If they
Georgia
lose.
has no chance if they lose, and that's why Bama has no chance.
Because they're also 2 losses.
they're
and not a
behind
conference
Georgia.
champ. Okay, so these 7 teams, the playoffs going to be 4 out of these 7 teams.
4 out of these 7.
The playoffs is going to be the playoffs is going to be 2 out of these 5 teams because no matter what, Ohio State's in
Ohio State's in.
and LSU's in.
LSU's in.
We kind of agree on that.
Yep.
So it's really like 2 out of these 5 teams are what's going to be in a playoff.
It's probably Clemson.
And And Clemson's very, very likely to
likely to get
win.
in.
They're
So
talking about hitting their stride.
It's really a vie for the last spot. These three teams have separated themselves.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to get in.
Yeah.
We're saying that. So it's really who gets that number 4 spot.
And the biggest advantage any of these teams are going to have is for one of them to be ranked number 1. Because if you are LSU or Ohio State or Clemson, one of those three, and you don't have to play the other of those three in the first round, your first round, you get a good team. You get Baylor and Utah. Man, that ain't those top 3.
No.
You got to win that game. Clemson's got to beat Baylor to get to the championship game. They're gonna get to the championship game.
Yeah.
They're gonna beat Baylor.
At that point, Ohio State and LSU in that scenario would have to fight it
or
out
whatever combination of those three. Whoever gets picked by number 1 by the committee, that is a huge advantage.
Oh, huge. And the 2 and 3 doesn't matter at that point.
What 2 and 3 matchup would be the funnest?
What 2 and 3 matchup would be the funnest?
I asked you first.
I think the best game would be Ohio State and Clemson.
Because they're the most complete teams.
Because they're the most complete teams. LSU has no defense. We've already mentioned that before.
They'd all be fun, but...
They'd all be fun.
How about this rebuilt Clemson defense?
All 3 of these quarterbacks are great. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Joe Burrow, they're all playing incredibly right now.
I'm telling you, I could have been wrong here. Because, let's say, one of these teams number 1. Pick one, randomly. Go.
Ohio State.
Ohio State. Okay. First round, Ohio State gets Oklahoma. And Jalen Hurts. They're going to score. They're going to score. CD Lamb, all those Arsenal skill positions. Jalen Hurts, love the kid's moxie, love his character. They die hard. They are not going to quit. Even when they got blown out of Kansas State, lost, they came back in that game, almost pulled it out. To come off the deck, I mean, you were knocked out. You know, the referee had a 9 count in a heavyweight boxing match. 8-9, you're about out. And they get up off the deck 28-3 and beat Baylor. That's some guts. That's some fortitude right there. And Lincoln Riley, maybe they're not going to be shell shocked. You can tell last year in that playoff game against Alabama, they hadn't seen a defense like that, and they were shell shocked off the get. Bama got up on them, and they might be a little more ready for it. And Jalen Hurts knows what an SEC defense looks like.
Yeah, he's dealt with it before in the past. He's beaten Georgia, basically single-handedly.
So the most dangerous team that could be the number 4, is Oklahoma because of their quarterback.
It's certainly not Baylor. Baylor's a good team.
Yeah.
They are physically not talented enough.
Yeah.
Matt Rule's a great coach.
Is he?
But no matter what you do, you cannot coach how to cover a 6'4" wide receiver with track speed. It's just not possible. Justin Ross, you could put 3 guys on him, and he might moss over all of them. And that's not even talking about T. Higgins. Or you look at Ohio State, it's hard to stop J.K. Dobbins getting shoved down your throat 30 carries in a row.
That offensive line, a great offensive line.
LSU, they can't compete with these teams athletically. It's Utah and Oklahoma are the 2 most dangerous teams.
But Utah showed if you hold up in protection against their defense, and boy, they're good on defense. If you can get to their secondary, USC proved it. If you can out-receiver them, that's how you beat Utah. USC did it pretty easily.
That's how you beat Utah.
We got to well this chair. Okay. Good.
Here's the thing about Utah, though. Utah has a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
They're very angry. They want if you get them in, they're gonna be ready. They're gonna be prepared.
Great coach.
The best thing that can happen to them, surprisingly, is they play Ohio State in the first round. Not Clemson or LSU. Clemson and LSU both have dominant receivers with a dominant quarterback, and they will bomb them all day long. Ohio State, Justin Fields is great, don't get me wrong. They're a run-heavy team with a running quarterback, and Justin Fields in the first half of that Michigan game did not play well. The moment seemed too big for him. He went like 6 of 12.
For like 2 drives?
For the entire first half.
Okay.
He did not have a good first half against Michigan. And if you get him in the playoffs, right, maybe this front 7 starts stopping the run, right, that is the best scenario for them. Because if they play Clemson or LSU, these teams are both battle-tested. Clemson maybe not this year, but last year. And they have the wide receivers to do what USC did.
Yeah, but, I mean, Ohio State can do the same thing. They can come out passing to KJ Hill and Austin Mack and Victor and all these guys.
That's what I'm saying.
But
it's not a good matchup. It's the best matchup.
You're saying like they don't. That's not what Ohio State wants to do. Ohio State wants to run the ball. They can
want
pass.
To play to Utah's strength.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
I want to talk for a minute about what I think is one of the more underrated coaches in the country, And I think this is the cure for a lot of programs in need of a coach. This style of coach. I'm talking about Kyle Whittingham from Utah. And what you want in a coach is what this guy is. His teams are physical. His teams are built on the line of scrimmage. And the man is miserable. Man is miserable. And miserable people kind of make great coaches. You know, you got coaches out there that pump their team up. PJ Fleck's style works, obviously. I don't know how sustainable it is. And what I love about Kyle Whittingham is, if he were my coach, if I was a Utah fan, I'd love this. Guy's never happy. Guy's never happy. This is the guy that's been undefeated before and beat Nick Saban in the Sugar Bowl. That's the one time he might have cracked a smile. So this is the kind of guy who wants everything perfect, detail-oriented, a lot of discipline on his teams, really physical, and you want to know what he's really about? Watch this clip John is going to put in right here.
In terms of enjoying it, how
I don't enjoy anything. I just keep coaching.
This is the kind of guy he is. This is him. This is the guy who would win the lottery and complain about the fact he'd have to pay taxes on it. This is a guy that could marry the Brazilian model and complain that she can't cook. All right, the guy's a perfectionist, and he's a grump, but it works. It works. He's demanding of his team. And Utah is not a top 6 or 8 team in terms of talent. They might be in a playoff because of him. They don't have the historical pedigree of Ohio State. Ohio State, you're not surprised if Ohio State's in a playoff, okay? You're not surprised if Georgia or LSU or Alabama's in a playoff, but you imagine Utah in a playoff? Because they got a shot at this. And it starts with him. And it's just a guy I've admired as a coach because he's such a grumpy hard ass, and I think that really works in terms of coaching. So on behalf of John and myself, thanks for joining us on OurSport. We're going to be working on getting this as a podcast soon. All our social media platforms are listed in the description below, and our inaugural episode is there. We encourage everybody to watch that episode if they haven't. It'll let you know a little bit what we're all about. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. You want a player or coach you want to talk about? I said it all the time. We're user-friendly. And we'd love for you guys to subscribe if you're a college football nut or a football nut like us. Turn on notifications. We're going to be here every week. And John and I will see you guys next week.